Hello and welcome to this very first session of our course on social media marketing and analytics. I am Madhukar Jha and I am joined by my friend and colleague Anupam Mukherjee. Now together over the last few years we've worked on social media campaigns for some of the world's and India's biggest brands like Microsoft, Samsung, Sprite, Airtel, Star Sports and plenty more. What we hope to do in this course is share our experiences and learning in helping you become better social media marketers.
Yes, exactly. In fact, social media marketers is what we want to turn you into, not just people who can use Facebook, Twitter, post messages, reply to comments, or marketers who spam people. That's not what we intend to do. What we want to make you into is social media marketers with the ability to build strategies for and execute complex social media campaigns like presidential campaigns, or manage large and complex brands like Coke and Microsoft, build communities from 0 to 10 million, build personal brands, and so on and so forth. Basically, we want to equip you with skills and knowledge that can allow you to harness the real power of social media. That's what our intention is.
Yes, that is our intention. But we'll begin, of course, with the fundamentals, and that is understanding social media. This is what the dictionary says about what social media is. Social media is defined as websites or apps that enable users to create and share content and or to participate in social networking.
I find this definition very incomplete and not really something that one can make sense of. I believe social media is a new social order. It's a new world where the right to create and broadcast content is equally available to each individual in the world. It's not centralized in the hands of a few that we call media houses.
Maybe a good way to look at this is to kind of understand how you see social media as being different from conventional media.
If you look at it, there are primarily two differences between conventional media and social media. The first of them is about the role of an individual. In conventional media, the individual is primarily a consumer of news and information. In social media, the role of the individual is much wider. He's not just a consumer of content, he's also creating content, he's broadcasting content, he's filtering content, he is deciding what news is important and what is not, and accordingly he's sharing it on his Facebook or Twitter. There is no particular direction or no particular predefined direction in which news and information needs to flow. So the news can come from let's say a news agency onto Facebook, and from there somebody may share it onto Twitter, then somebody may actually in another part of the world may pick it up and put it on his news website. So essentially in social media, news information flows in any direction, so it's multi-directional. And also there was recently when the Hamas and the Israelis, there was a standoff and massive shelling was going on in the Palestinian areas. There was a 16-year-old girl who was live tweeting her life living in a war zone, and within days she had like a few lakh followers. There was one particular picture of hers that her sisters that she shared with there was glass all over the house, and she said, my 6-year-old sister has lived through 3 wars. Now there is no newspaper that could have provided such an evocative image of the war as the 16-year-old girl provided through her Twitter account.
Okay, so they are different, right? The social media world is very different from conventional media. But what, according to you, led to this? What is the reason that this happened?
I think the genesis of it was when people got the ability to send the same message to more than one person at the same time is when media really started to go social. There's a classic example of Jonah Peretti, who's the co-founder of Huffington Post and the founder of BuzzFeed. Back in 2001, when he was a student, he played a prank with Nike. Nike came up with a website that allowed users to customize their shoes. So Jonah Peretti, mischievous guy that he was, decided to write sweatshop on his shoes and sent it to him. Nike, for obvious reasons, could not write sweatshop on their shoes. So they gave him some excuse that, this is a slang, this is this, this is that. And every excuse that Nike would come up with, he would actually send them a reply, very smartly dissecting and refuting the excuse and giving them, reasons as to why he needs the word sweatshop printed on his shoes. Eventually, he forwarded this email exchange with Nike to a few of his friends just so they can also get a good laugh. Within a couple of days, this email had just gone viral, and it had just almost everybody around the world had read this email, including newspapers and television stations. And within a few days, he was a mini celebrity. He was on CBS Morning News giving interviews of why he wrote that and what he has against the whole sweatshop phenomenon of American companies. And in a way, this was the first viral phenomenon in the internet world.
So my next question really is, with this transformation, how do you see the whole world has changed? Is this new social media order which has been caused by the coming of social media?
Primarily, the power in the hands of the people to create and disseminate information is where the social order has changed. In the world of social media, it's very difficult, or it's far more difficult to actually hoodwink people or convince them about something which is not true. It's a much more democratic world that we live in, especially when it comes to news and information, and that is where the social order has changed.
As you mentioned, so with information being democratized and anyone being able to produce it, there's also this factor obviously of speed of information, and so it's probably not giving those people enough time to react.
I had a conversation with one of the central figures of the Arab Spring movement in Egypt in 2011, and he was talking about how they used Facebook to drive the revolution. They would decide, let's say 4 p.m. Friday, everybody needs to land up on Tahrir Square. But the fact is, they cannot let the government know about it. So they would create these private events on Facebook, and they would send these private invites to people on Facebook, and these invites would just go viral. The entire strategy would be actually discussed and disseminated on Facebook, and at the appointed hour, thousands of people would land up at Tahrir Square, and with the government not knowing about it, there would be about 10-15 policemen there sitting around having chai, and suddenly they see 10,000 people walking at Tahrir Square completely taken off guard. And this is how, this discreetness with which news traveled and the speed with which news traveled is what it was the main weapon these revolutionaries had in their hands.
Is it not also very natural that people who used to be in control, which is the governments, the media houses, the corporates, they are very uncomfortable with this, and they would try and change this, and they would try and wrest control back?
What we are seeing over the last few years is governments and dictators and business organizations doing two things. One, they are trying to understand social media and trying to adapt their game to social media. Two, wherever possible, they are trying to control it. So we already know that in China, social media is not really free. In Russia, Putin has been trying to get a Bloggers Act implemented. In fact, bloggers have been arrested in Russia. Even in the Middle East, there is a classic case of a blogger having been arrested and sentenced to public flogging. In India, the Section 66A of the IT Act is a very dreaded act. I mean, it is being completely misinterpreted and misused, or rather I would say abused, by the police and the government in some cases. And we are seeing a very classic tussle between freedom of expression on one hand and curbing of freedom of expression on the other. And the future, we'll see this getting a lot more fierce, but I do hope and I believe that the free world will eventually win.
So do you think conventional media has a role today? Is there any use at all of conventional media?
Yeah, totally. I mean, today conventional media is still reaching higher numbers than social media. So as of today, conventional media is fairly important and relevant. But then what we are seeing is that conventional media, be it television or newspapers, are all going digital. I mean, everybody is having a digital strategy, and looking at the future, everybody knows that they need to go digital. And when it comes to digital, I mean, whatever new websites or apps that you're looking at, there is the ability to comment, there's the ability to share, and in fact, they are all kind of growing by the way of sharing and comments. So digital media inherently is social in nature. So when conventional media goes digital, they're also going social. In the future, the way I look at it, there will be just the one media. There won't be a conventional media, social media sort of distinction. Every media will be social in nature. There will be the bigger digital media houses, there'll be the smaller digital media houses, but the relevance or the importance of the bigger media houses will continue to decrease, because with the entry barriers getting lower, the more popular you are, the more relevant you will be. So in the future, there will be just the one media, and it will be social in nature.
Wow. So that sets us up very nicely, doesn't it? We've seen how social media is core, fundamental to today's world, right? It's part of our life today. So what do you think, Anupam? How do we proceed from here? What happens next?
I mean, before we get down to what happens next, I think everyone should understand, especially budding social media marketers who are watching this, that the key part about a social media marketer is to understand the individual who's on social media, the social media native, his likes, his dislikes, what is he there for, what is he looking for, what are the challenges in his life, why is he there on social media, and understand that really well, because that is the person you'll be marketing to. I mean, that is your consumer, that is your target audience, and the better you know him or her, the better you'll be able to market your service or product to that person. Next, of course, we'll be looking at the social media landscape. It's a landscape which is complex, dynamic, changing all the time. And as social media marketers, you'll need to be able to navigate your way through this landscape. The more effectively you do it, the more effective a marketer you are on social media. So that's the topic for our next discussion. Hope you are as excited about it as we are.